Hey everyone, welcome back to Instagram. And for Friday.
It's Friday! It's the end of the week! We worked all week for this! Let's hear it! Yes!
Yay.
Yeah!
We've got a nasty little developer-publisher brawl to finish up your week with.
Who doesn't like a good video game slap fight? Yeah, apparently video game companies are just petty and vindictive, just like the rest of us!
This story involves a bunch of Sherlock Holmes detective games that have been disappearing from various storefronts after a fight between the developer and publisher.
Or, I guess it's a fight. We have to be left to assume that, because we really don't know that much about this story, which makes this an interesting story to report on. Anyway, the developer of these games is the Ukrainian studio Frogwares. They're not massive games, but they do have their devoted followings. Elise is in this building somewhere, and she just started vibrating at her desk.
Absolutely, but recently those games have been vanishing from various storefronts, including the PS3 versions of The Testament of Sherlock Holmes and the action puzzle game Mag Runner Dark Pulse.
Yeah, who can forget that infamous Sherlock Holmes mystery, Mag Runner, the Dark Pulse?
That sounds like a song that would be playing in Cyberpunk somewhere. Anyway,
it does.
Meanwhile, those two games plus Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper, my favorite fighting game, have been taken down from the Xbox 360.
But there's even more, Brian, isn't that correct?
Even more. Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishments will be taken down on Steam, as well as the PS3, PS4, Xbox One, and Xbox 360 storefronts as of this Sunday.
So what's going on? This sounds like a job for Sherlock Holmes or Brian Garth.
It's nasty. Frogwares actually put out a statement yesterday explaining their side of things. Apparently, their publisher, Focus Home Interactive, actually their former publisher, won't transfer the title IDs to Frogwares, which says that it's the creators and IP owners of those titles.
And Focus Home isn't transferring those title IDs, even though their publishing and distribution agreement with Frogwares has now ended.
If they're the IP owners, why do they have to delist the games? You would think that they would just stay up and then Focus Home Interactive would keep all the money. There must be something about the publishing agreement that makes any of those outcomes not possible.
Let's try to rap with you kids and learn you something.
Yeah, so this goes into actual, like the nuts and bolts of publishing. A title ID is basically just the reference number that's associated with a game on a storefront. It includes information about the game along with related stuff like wish lists and discussion boards. Keys to the kingdom, basically.
Right. What that means is that Frogwares will have to make all new accounts and IDs for those games, which means they'll lose reviews, history, and wish lists that were attached to those original ones.
Yeah, they'll also have to set up brand new store profiles in general. So it's basically like starting a whole new save file in a game after you put 100 hours into it, which is tough when you've almost cracked the case at the end of Crimes and Punishments.
So Focus Home can't sell those games anymore because they don't have the right to, but they're not gonna make it easy for Frogwares to do it either. How very petty.
Yeah, it just, on the surface level, it just seems petty. I'd like to believe there's something a little more complicated about this, that Focus Home isn't just being a big old group of bastards, but it kind of seems like it. But there is a precedent here, right, Brian? This isn't normally how this goes.
Yeah, Frogwares says that it's standard practice just to hand over the title IDs in this situation. They added that this is the first time in 20 years we have encountered such a situation. So from their perspective, this blindsided them. They did not think this was going to happen. I think they just expected a pretty clean handoff, but Focus Home was like, it's not going to happen.
But why did Focus Home Interactive do this? Why now? What happened?
This is weird because all we have to go on is what they've said publicly. We actually did reach out for comment, haven't heard anything back, probably because they're hopefully talking about stuff. And I know that when things get close to legal status or get very heated, people tend to clam up publicly because you don't want to inflame situations even more. Anyway, so what we have publicly is Frogwares has said that it's because their publisher recently changed its policy and sent them the change last week.
That new policy says that Focus Home, quote, will not transfer any title, the content ID, or title ID belonging to any developer which has removed all of their games from the Focus catalog. That's a lot of words that say nothing.
And it says a lot. It basically says if you ever leave our catalog, we're going to hold everything hostage and make you rebuild it from scratch.
I love corporate speak.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So Frogwares said it was caught off guard by this new policy and said that it, quote, is not in any of our previous or existing contracts with Focus and that has never been applied to us in the past. If it's not in the contract you signed, yeah, it's time to get a lawyer and say, what the f are you doing? You can't just amend a contract like that. Hopefully.
It honestly seems like a little bit of revenge by Focus Home for Frogwares pulling its games back. Sort of like, you want to leave us? Cool, fine, have fun doing all this work all over again. Once again, kind of petty. It's like just lighting the building on fire as you walk away. I don't know. Or just kind of peeing in the trash can.
That may be why you're seeing some games disappearing. If you are a mystery lover, it might be time to get in there before those games disappear.
Quite the mystery.
Frogwares wrote that, quote, as the creators and IP owners of all those games, we have no control and no say in this. The decision of Focus Home left us voiceless.
Well, we reached out to Frogwares with some additional questions, but like I said, have not heard back. We also emailed Focus Home Interactive for their response to the situation, but surprise, they did not respond.
Sorry, I forgot that was in the script. Didn't mean to get there early. So what's Frogwares' next step here, Brian?
Well, first of all, we should note not all of their games have been pulled. The Testament of Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper, and Mag Runner Dark Pulse. They're still all up on Steam because those versions are published by Frogwares, not Focus Home, so those aren't effective. But when you're talking about the other games, they said they're setting up up new store profiles. They're also contacting console stores to try to like explain the situation, try to fix it. But this could take months and months. And in the meantime, they're obviously losing revenue from games that aren't being sold.
Oh, God, no. All those Sherlock Holmes copies. No, God.
On the flip side, they're kind of getting a little bit of a PR boost because they seem like the victim and people are going, wait, Sherlock Holmes has games? Cool.
You gotta hand it to Frogwares. They are playing the situation as best they can by putting out an open statement saying, guys, we're getting we could really use some help here. So hopefully it'll work out. Maybe, yeah, individual stores will realize what's going on and be like, okay, that's messed up. Let's just actually migrate all this stuff. We'll see.
Plus, even if the games are like only $5, that's probably like $1 million in the Ukraine.
The Ukraine, how dare you?
Man.
How dare you?
So Frogwares added that the new policy from Focus Home, quote, will land a serious blow to our studio, threatening our future games and the people who develop them. Think of the children.
Yeah, speaking out of my ass here, how valuable can a gang of Sherlock Holmes games that are buried under mountains of bad hentai puzzle games on Steam be, really? I mean, you always get swipes at it with like sales and stuff like that. I've seen those games do moderately well, and every ounce of money you get as an independent dev is important, so I'm not trying to mitigate that. That statement seems a little strong. I don't know though. Speaking out of my ass, like I said. Anyway, Frogwares' statement on the whole issue went semi-viral with more than 4,000 retweets and nearly 8,000 likes as fans rallied to their defense.
Many claimed it was a case of small developer getting pushed around by the big bully publisher.
I mean, yeah, that's business sometimes.
I guess when no one's saying anything too, it's fun to sort of infer what's being said.
You can definitely read a narrative into everything, and there's usually a David and Goliath. It's just the story we like to see. It's pretty easy to imply that upon situations in which you have very little information, like this one. So as we said before, this process is usually much, much smoother. You'll see games like Destiny 2, which previously published by someone else, in this case Activision, revert back to the studio that made them. There's actually a pretty amicable handoff, mostly because I have to presume that if the publisher gets really catty about it, we get a situation like this.
In the case of Destiny 2, Bungie decided to self-publish the game after several years with Activision. So it also recently happened with some Call of Juarez games. Remember those? Anybody?
I do. Bible in one hand and a gun in the other, just like every red state would love. I don't know where I'm going with that one.
Made by French people. Those were actually published by Ubisoft, but the licensing and publishing rights for some of those games recently reverted back to the developer, Techland.
I remember there were a couple of hiccups with the Call of Juarez games, but they made it back to the stores eventually. Oh, look at that. It's in the script. Why do I keep doing this?
It's fine.
Anyway.
Also says Obosoft, or Ubosoft.
Yeah,
Ubosif.
But yeah, those games also disappeared from storefronts, but it didn't seem like there was much animosity between Techland and Ubisoft, or there was, and they just dealt with it in private.
Yeah, or just something professional. In a statement, Techland Publishing CPO Adam Lasson thanked Ubisoft for its incredible work publishing the Call of Juarez games.
I mean, yeah, he said that. Just because things seem nice on the outside doesn't mean they were nice all along. I've known a lot of very contentious business meetings to happen, and then everyone comes out with their stupid statements that make everything seem totally fine. So maybe this is just the time we were able to see the tea hit the floor. But the most notable of these games, Call of Juarez Gunslinger, is now back up for purchase on Steam. That was down for quite a bit. It does seem, on the service level, like they had a much smoother transition than Frogwares and Focus Home Interactive.
Yeah, as for Focus Home Interactive, they're based out of France, and they've been around for around 20 years. So they publish a variety of stuff. The most notable are the farming simulator games you've probably seen YouTube channels play.
Yeehaw!
They also acquired the rights to the Cities XL series, the successor to SimCity.
Kind of, yeah.
The unofficial.
The non-EA SimCity, which makes it better. I mean, it is better, actually. So here's the big question, the one we've been straining to answer all episode. Why are they doing this? Because it seems like this whole controversy could really hurt the reputation going forward. It's not hard to imagine other developers seeing this happen and choosing not to publish through Focus Home Interactive, because in a couple of years, they might just hold your entire catalog hostage.
Yeah, and from Focus Home Interactive's perspective, perhaps, maybe they're just trying to make it a little harder for developers to leave, so they'll decide to re-up their publishing agreements. Maybe that's all we can really come up with.
Maybe, but it's done in such a shitty way. Like giving them a memo 1 week before negotiations happen to be like, oh, by the way, we're not gonna give you anything back.
That's what we call in the industry a dick move.
It's a shakedown, yeah. You know, this is why banks love direct deposit and automatic bill pay. You get all that stuff set up, and it's just the hassle leveraged against changing. So you don't want to redo all that, so you just stay with the bank where you are, even if they do charge you a bunch of dumbass fees.
But what about Frogwares' situation, Brian?
Interestingly, Ryan Morrison, who is an attorney who specializes in gaming, we've quoted him in the past, he weighed in on the issue saying that it seems like a simple fix with an attorney. So getting back to what Lawrence said, maybe you just hire an attorney to fix this.
And I know one who's ready to work.
Taking it on surface level, what was said, you can't amend a contract like that. You can't just do that. If it's not in the contract you wrote, and if it's not in the agreement that you executed upon, there's no way that they can do that.
That's not how contracts work.
The only problem is if the contract doesn't explicitly say anything about title IDs, then it might get a little rough.
There might be something in the contract that contradicts itself, which makes the whole thing null and void, but that's usually what attorneys do when they dig through this stuff, and you know, it's what they do for a living.
Yeah, we're not lawyers. We're just professional video games men.
Yeah, and even that's a little shaky. So, but the studio did seem upbeat this morning. They've been tweeting a bunch of thank yous for all the support and encouragement that they got from other developers and the larger gaming community. They added, "We'll be in touch." Like
Ominous.
with me, With Elise? Like,
Sherlock Holmes is getting handsy.
ew. When's Benedict Cumberbatch coming back?
They're making that Marvel money now. They don't need this.
What if there's a multi-parallel Sherlock universe where all the Sherlocks get together and solve the ultimate mystery?
I'm done here.
Frogwares, do it! Why is every Wednesday story really bad? Why do I have to hump to the worst news?
Has Chucklefish been stiffing people who work for them?
Yes.
Specifically when it came to one of its breakout games, Starbound.
Absolutely, yes. We're not clickbaiting you here. There it is, yes. We did real journalism again. We deserve a parade every time. Yeah, thank you. So that's what some have recently alleged on social media, claiming that the indie